Welcome back, students of fitness, to another episode of the Liftology podcast. Rich and Joe back with you today to keep you informed on your fitness journey. Today, I thought we could take a look at a topic that just doesn't seem to go away, which is the myth of getting too bulky or trying to tone, particularly in women. Toning, of course, is in this case meaning the quote end quote showcasing lean muscle without looking like a bodybuilder. Joe, how did you want to talk about the topic today?
So I thought we would start by defining what tone actually is. I think kind of illuminating people to the fact that there actually exists a term tone in exercise physiology. Has nothing to do with, how it's perceived.
In like Merriam-Webster's dictionary?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. What exactly would that definition be?
So which one do you want? You want to hear
I want the X-Phys one. I
Okay.
think that's the one that's most applicable
Yeah.
to people that are tuning in and trying to understand it.
So generally in exercise phys, when we talk about the tonicity of muscles, it's our muscles constantly have a tonicity to them. It's kind of what keeps us in balance. It's essentially posture, right? Posture is tone. There's a balance between the tonicity between our flexors and our extensors, which kind of keeps us in this constant state of like pulling one way, pulling the other until we're centered.
Yeah. So in the various different movement patterns that we have, there are constantly two opposite forces, one that's flexing, one that's extending, but they're all working at the same time.
Yeah, at rest. So like working, but like at a almost like a subconscious level, right?
Yeah.
Like not
breathing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like we're flexing constantly. It's just a tonicity of muscle. It has absolutely nothing to do with the actual shape of muscle, the size of muscle. So I think that's where the discrepancy comes in, right? People think like, oh, I want to look tone. Can't look tone, right? You can look muscular, you can look fit, but you can't look tone. It's probably my least favorite word in the fitness industry as a whole.
Leave the toner to the printing industry, so to speak.
Exactly. Nice one.
I'm proud of it.
So, we should talk about how and why it gained popularity in the first place. That phrase, getting tone.
Okay.
Then we'll talk about why getting bulky is actually an irrational fear for females in particular. It's much more difficult to get bulky than people assume. We'll have these sections time-stamped out below. So if there's anything that piques your interest, anything that you want to check out, you can see it down there in the summary. And
those three things that are being time-stamped being how it's difficult to build muscle.
Yep.
The testosterone needed in order to build muscle, and how it's difficult for women over men in that particular area.
Correct.
And then the nutrition involved in that.
Yes.
All right. So with that being said, I think the order that we should attack this in is the difficulty in building muscle, then the testosterone portion, and then bring it all together with the nutrition aspect. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I want to just bring it back first. So we have like this now general definition of what tonicity actually is.
Okay.
I think it's important to kind of denote. So that's like an exercise phys term, but if we talk about even just a general definition of toning, right? Looking up the Merriam-Webster definition of it, it literally is to get stronger.
Okay.
And I think that's like an important thing, because a lot of times people think like, oh, I don't want to build muscle. I just want to get tone.
Yeah.
That's building muscle. Like there's this.
So the industry kind of pulled from the dictionary that term.
Yeah.
In order to make like a selling point
Absolutely.
gather people in.
It's to make it sound more appealing.
All right.
Which, I don't think is really the case, right? Because I think it may have been the case going back 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now I think for the most part that stigma behind women building muscle has decreased significantly. I think most females in the gym are there to get stronger and build muscle.
Which is great.
Yeah,
It's absolutely
absolutely.
great. And it should be applauded.
Yeah, and in fact, I read that the IHRSA, the Global Health and Fitness Association, stated that in 2020, 50.5% of gym goers were female.
So equality.
Yeah,
right.
I mean that's about as close to half and half as you can get. So using that term now makes no sense because women don't need that softening of building muscle.
An entry, like a soft landing zone to getting to the gym.
Yeah,
right. That was the Jane Fonda videos. Like that's what they were kind of.
Yeah,
like a soft landing spot to get going with the health, and then it kind of got morphed into this jazzercise type stuff as well.
Yeah. So, going back into, the 70s and 80s, statistically, women were not going to the gym as much. And that's when the development of like exercise classes started.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they started really throwing around that term kind of willy-nilly, right? Like, oh, woman, you don't want to get strong. You don't want to get bulky. You don't want to build a lot of muscle. You just want to get tone. And it's like, that doesn't mean anything, no, right? I mean, so if you want to get...
a way for the industry to push...
Yeah. If you want to get tone, it means you want to reduce body fat and you want to build more muscle.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So I think, moving away from that term as a whole I think that trend is starting. And I think we should keep on heading in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Also, misogynistic to kind of think like, well, women don't want to be strong.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
I mean, look at the era that it was created in.
Yeah. So,
Arnold has Gold's Gym. Jane Fonda has workout videos.
Yeah, and I mean, thinking about Jane Fonda makes you think of like all that other stuff. Who was the thigh master? What was her name? Susan Summers.
Yep.
Oh, like that was brutal. It was a brutal time for the fitness industry.
If it looks weird, it must be doing something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, there's always gimmicks, right?
Yeah.
I saw on Shark Tank that like little curved board that people would use. It has no.
Oh my
real,
God, I know what you're talking about. The twisting thing.
Yeah, there's no real
place
to apply to a workout. It's just an accessory.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we're getting off topic.
Yeah.
I think we should try to bring it back into the difficulty of building muscle.
Yes. So how hard is it to actually build muscle? It's hard. Very hard. Number one, it takes a lot more time than people think.
Yeah, you're not going to go to the gym a few times over the course of a month and all of a sudden balloon out and have these massive arms, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. With that being said, beginners will gain more muscle quicker than people who have been training longer. Yeah. But that's because they already don't have a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
So
it's quote unquote beginner gains.
Yeah.
Because typically speaking, the amount of muscle that you build over the course of a month, in optimal conditions, mind you, is 5.5, right? A half a pound to about 2 pounds per month. And that's with like highly like fine-tuned circumstances in your life.
Yeah. I mean that your nutrition's on point, your frequency is on point, your workouts are on point, and it's almost like in a lab controlled setting.
Yeah. In the perfect storm of everything it takes to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, just real quick, go back to the beginners. They might see more closer to that higher end of like 3 to 4 pounds in the very beginning, but that's short-lived. Short-lived.
Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And from the weightlifting end, right? Uh, what is one of the defining features of building muscle?
Progressive overload.
Okay. Continue. What do you mean
Progressive.
by that?
So progressive overload would be changing a variable to continually make your workouts more difficult. It could be very simple,
Objectively
like
speaking, though, like not like I had a rough day
yeah,
and I'm tired.
correct, absolutely measurable difference in degree of difficulty. Adding more weight, increasing the number of sets, increasing the number of reps, reducing your rest time. Anything that you can measure in the gym, essentially, that's
Yeah.
going to make your workout more difficult.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I've noticed that there are more and more people in the gym that actually have notebooks
Yeah,
that are recorded. And that's someone that's going there with a goal. And that's someone who's intending to put on muscle,
correct.
as opposed to going willy nilly, doing a set of this, a set of that, and leaving. You're not going to get big that way.
Yeah, and that's also, I mean, that's a huge difference between training and working out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Training is having your goal in mind and taking the necessary steps to get to that goal. That's a training goal, right? You're training for a specific reason. Working out is just going in the gym and generally exercising. There's no endpoint in sight. It's more of like a maintenance based thing, right?
Which is fine if you don't have goal. I don't want to set. Let me rephrase
It's
that.
fine.
If you don't have a specific goal that you're trying to hit, then that's like you said, fine-ish.
Yeah.
But like typically speaking, in order to gain muscle volume-wise, you're looking for something like 20 sets a week, minimum per movement, not like total. Like whatever you're working on, you need about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just, basic example, squats, right? Doing a minimum of 20 sets per week, not counting warm-up sets, right? 20 work sets per week is what needs to be done to actually start gaining significant amounts of muscle. That's a lot.
Yeah. Now, when you say squats, though, you're talking about the squat pattern, right?
Yeah.
Like you can do
Variations.
5 sets on one day of a heavy squat, and then like 3 sets of like walking lunges.
Yeah, or like a split squat, walking
Mhm.
lunge, front squat even,
Mhm.
to give you that variability so it's
Mhm.
not the same thing every time. Yeah.
So you could add you could add that spice into your workout if you're of the mindset where you can't just go do the exercises and go because it's too boring for you.
Yeah, definitely.
If you want to mix up the variability, the key is to make sure that all of your working sets are to like near failure.
Approaching failure, absolutely. They need to be tough sets, and that's something that is hard to define in the beginning because everything will feel difficult that you haven't done before. But it's kind of understanding the difference between like your brain finding something difficult and your muscles actually finding it difficult. Doing something that makes you feel out of breath doesn't necessarily mean you're approaching muscular failure at that point.
A lot of people would be at muscle failure walking up a set of
Yeah.
stairs in that case.
Yeah.
But
So I think, after going to the gym a couple times, you'll start to understand what a challenging set actually feels like.
yeah, and you could use RPE, rating of perceived exertion.
Yeah.
And your last reps of the set should be close to probably about 8.
8, I think eight's a good number.
10 is you're not going to get to unless it's almost like a 1 rep max,
Yeah.
because that should be everything you
10
have.
really is technically like the max at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard somebody break down RPE the other day. I do like RPE in terms of like reps in reserve, right?
Mhm.
So an 8 would mean I could do 2 more.
Okay.
The
So you're
technical
saying
failure.
like if you're going to 10,
Yeah. Yeah. No, if you go into anything, right? So like say I'm going to do a set of 5.
Okay.
On my 5th rep, I want to feel like I have 2 left in the tank. That would be an RPE of 8.
Okay.
Right? Now, I like that method, but somebody else broke it down super easy, and I was like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. 10 would be the max weight you can do for that given number of repetitions. If you're working on a set of 8 and you can do 8 and absolutely no more, that's a 10, right? That's fair.
Okay.
9 would be considered very, very difficult.
Like, I think I maybe could have got one more rep out of that.
And 8 would be, so the way you kind of described it was like 10 is the max. 9 is very, very difficult. 8 is hard work. And 7 would be kind of like that sweet spot where it's like hard, but you know that with just a limited amount of rest, you could attack that same weight again for your next set and be good to go. And then like 6, where you don't really want to be working below a 6 at that point. 6 would be like more like something you're doing for
Muscular
speed.
endurance.
Speed.
Or speed.
Yeah, like
power.
Yeah, because you don't want that load to be super heavy. You want to be able to do 4 to 6 high intensity repetitions and be able to recover, right? You don't want to train because
because adequate rest, like we've covered in our video in the past with rest, adequate rest is a contributing factor.
Yeah. So, if you can't move the bar with speed, you're not training for speed, essentially, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Train fast, move fast. It's the truth, right? If you can't move if it's a 10, you're just struggling on that lift.
Which means you're not lifting it fast.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Yeah, no. That is...
Yeah, so that's the difficulty in building muscle, like the amount of hard work it actually takes to build muscle. And I'm not saying that like, oh, that means if my goal is to get tone, like you're saying I'm not working hard enough. I'm saying there's a good chance you're probably working more towards maintenance than you are for muscle building, which again, you said earlier, that's an okay goal to have if you're happy with where you're at.
Yeah.
Right? That is an absolutely okay goal. The next thing being testosterone levels,
which is a major factor.
Yeah,
building muscle.
It just out of the gate puts females at a huge disadvantage to gaining muscle at the same rate that men do.
Because physiologically, men produce a lot more testosterone.
A lot more. I didn't
even on the lower scale.
Yeah,
and the higher scale for women.
Yeah, I didn't realize how significantly different it was until I saw these numbers. Yeah. So typically men are at 10 to 35 nanomoles per liter, and women are between 0.5 and 2.4 nanomoles per liter.
So for you at home trying to do the math real quick, that's about, at the best case scenario for women producing the same amount of testosterone as men, you're looking low end men and high end women. That's about best case scenario, about 4%.
Four times.
I'm sorry, four times. Yeah, not 4 times. Sorry.
Yeah.
And at the worst case scenario, 70 times.
70 times more testosterone. I mean, that's you can't catch up. Like, there's
you
no
need
way.
a whiteboard and to go over the no, it's crazy.
So
and that's not necessarily, that's not a bad statement. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
Sometimes facts are good. Sometimes facts are bad. I mean, let me rephrase that. Facts are neutral.
Yes.
What you do with them is how you plan your workouts and
Correct.
Everything like that.
And as far as the not wanting to look like a bodybuilder, when your goal is to get toned because you don't want to look like a bodybuilder as a female, those numbers right there tell you like you have almost no chance of looking like a male bodybuilder. The female bodybuilders that you see that look closer to a male bodybuilder than the typical female are enhanced. And that's
we covered that.
Yeah, it's just they need the added hormones in order to get to that size. Yeah. So,
and like we've covered in the past too, they're all using it in that stage.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
that's why they look the way they do. And if that's not your goal, if your goal is tone, right? Which I hate using that word. I struggle to say it so much. But if your goal is to have that defined look, then lifting heavy weights in and of itself isn't going to be enough to get you there.
Well, let's put that to bed right now. Defined is body composition.
Yes,
That's all it is.
absolutely. It's low body fat percentage, higher muscle mass.
And sometimes you could kind of cheat it a little bit. You put a little more muscle on without putting on any more fat, your body fat percentage goes down even though you gained weight.
Yes.
And for women looking specifically for that aesthetic look, you're not looking large. You're just looking more defined.
Correct. Actually, a great example, an analogy that I saw was if you took like a pen and a highlighter, right, of equal height, and you held them next to each other, right? So imagine that's the same person. The highlighter would be the person with the higher body fat percentage, and the pen would be the person with the lower body fat percentage. So everything else,
the pen in this analogy could still
weigh the same or more than the same person represented as the highlighter. So,
also don't get hooked on that number.
Don't focus on the scale. Do not. Weight changes dramatically day to day. Water weight, just fluctuations because of stress, whatever the case may be. So not getting hooked on the number on the scale and not weighing yourself twice a day, every day. It's something to avoid.
Okay. And that would bring us to the third aspect, which is nutrition, which is not just for gaining weight, losing weight. Nutrition is going to be key for everyone across the board. But today we're talking about how it affects women in looking bulky or toned or whatever in order to gain all that muscle with the testosterone, with the hard work. You also have to be have a hypercaloric diet.
Yes.
Which means you are
ingesting more than you're burning.
Yep.
And it needs to be fairly significant. If you're already pretty active in the gym, exercising pretty regularly, your caloric intake is already probably fairly high. And in order to actually get bulky, you're talking about increasing that number by 400 or 500 calories. So if you're already active,
again, you're not getting bulky.
Yeah. If you're already active,
again, we said optimally with this diet, you're putting on a half a pound to 2 pounds a month. If you're training optimally with the same nutrition that we're talking about.
Yeah. Again, 400 to 500 calories on top of what you're already eating as an active individual is a lot. It's a lot. It's essentially eating an entire large meal.
Yeah.
So if you're not adding that entire large meal onto what you're already eating, again, just like you said, bulk isn't even a concern. You're not bulking. You're eating what's necessary to maintain what you already have.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, the other part of not just getting more calories, it's what you're getting more calories of. And a big part of that is protein and fat.
Okay. And what do you have for the numbers as far as if you're on the leaner scale?
So
how much protein would you need?
If you're a little bit leaner, you should be getting, again, this is to try to put on more muscle. You should be getting about 1.2 grams per pound of body weight.
That's more. I think that's actually more towards the people.
That would be more towards the people who have a higher body fat percentage. You're right.
Yeah.
If you have a lower body fat percentage, you need to be upwards of 1.6 grams per pound of body weight. It's significant.
Yeah.
It's a lot. You look at it and you're like, well, but that's only 0.4 grams difference. But talking in a 2,000 calorie diet, that's a significant number, right?
Yeah, and you don't really get an appreciation for it until you're actually tracking your macronutrients.
Yeah.
When you start looking at the labels, you start reading how much protein is in one thing, how much fat is another thing. Because I'm gonna take a second here to kind of poo-poo on the grocery store industry, because for a while it was reduced fat everything. Everything's reduced fat. Everything's reduced fat. Low fat, low sodium, all these things. Low sodium, not bad though.
Yeah.
But the newest thing I see on everything is packed with protein, and you'll see like 8 grams of protein,
Yeah.
and the serving size is like a big serving size is the 8 grams of protein.
Yeah.
And calorically, that 8 grams of protein is like 30% of the macronutrients. So it's like, it's not packed in protein.
Yeah.
You just slap that label on it to sell a product.
It's nothing. There's nothing like buying a box of something that says 8 grams of protein per serving, and there's 3 servings in the whole box, and you're like, wow, I would have to eat a third of this box just to get 8 grams of protein. Like, it's a little misleading.
Or it's like, you'll see something that's like 16 grams of protein, and then in fine print it'll be like, in this bottle. And you're like, I'm not having that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to read the labels the right way.
It is. And that's I think the other part of that too is using apps, because for the most part I feel like there are a lot of good apps out there. Or if you're uncertain, because if you go and buy a package of chicken drumsticks, you're like, well, how much protein am I getting? Like, yeah, there's quick Google searches, there are so many apps now that are free to use that are really great for tracking.
Yeah, you just type it in and it tells you in a typical serving. Now, keep in mind, it's not going to be perfect every time.
Yeah.
But you're looking for as close as you can get to that.
Yeah. And, the apps are great because they're going to, at worst, they're just going to push you in the right direction. Yeah. At best, they're going to be pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, I mean, the food apps are great. Quick Google searches, reading labels. I mean, it's gotten much easier today to follow a healthy macronutrient diet.
Yeah. And I think just showcasing all those things, though, shows you that you do have to do the work. You're not going to accidentally fall into the proper diet that gets you all the nutrients and the calories that you need to put on that bulk, which isn't bulk. It's just a little bit more muscle. And trust me, no one's going to think you're this huge individual.
Bodybuilder, you are not.
And I think with all that knowledge that we covered, it shows you how difficult it is to follow that diet. And I think with that, it shows that that myth can be put to sleep. I mean, I know it won't be.
I hope
but
so.
For anyone that's following us, listening to us, I think it's safe to say that we kind of put that to sleep a little bit.
Yeah, you don't have to set a goal of getting tone. Set a goal of getting stronger, being fit.
And if done correctly, you will look, quote unquote, more lean or toned.
Correct.
And if anyone out there has any questions or has any topics that they want to discuss with us in future episodes, feel free to leave a comment or send us a direct message on Instagram. Our Instagram handle, I'll show up right up here, is the _ Liftology. And until next time, make sure you're working out just as smart as you are hard.